Good evening and welcome. I'm delighted to see all of you here. We're in for a very interesting evening and discussion. Couldn't be a more timely event, I think. As you know, on the 27th of June of this year, the ICC issued a warrant for the arrest of the head of state, the then head of state, and commander of the armed forces in Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, his son, and then de facto Prime Minister Saif Gaddafi, and the then head of the military intelligence, Abdullah al-Senussi. As you know, they were all charged with counts of crimes against humanity, and the denouement of the events was remarkable. So this is a fantastic opportunity for us to hear, as it were, from the horse's mouth what happened and what the relevance is. So I'm really delighted to welcome Mr. Luis Moreno Ocampo, who, as you know, is a prosecutor for the International Criminal Court, the first prosecutor unanimously placed in that position nearly 9 years ago in 2003. Prior to his time at the ICC, Mr. Ocampo was well known and widely respected as an eminent human rights lawyer. He did trend-setting work in his home country of Argentina following the period of the military dictatorship, and prosecuted senior military commanders successfully, securing the first convictions for war criminals and for indictees of offences since the Nuremberg trials of World War II. He also prosecuted other senior military figures in Argentina, and then went on to work in the international community in various posts at the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the UN before taking up his position at the International Criminal Court. This evening, Mr. Ocampo is going to show a short video and make some comments, and then I think fully expects to engage in a lively discussion with all of you. So this is just by way of warning and enticement. And please join me in welcoming Mr. Luis Moreno Ocampo.
Thank you very much for this kind invitation to be here. In fact, I'm working here because 9 years ago, I was here, and they appointed me the prosecutor of the first permanent international criminal court. And as you know, this was an idea who was dreamed for 100 years and was finally implemented in 2003, and they gave me the privilege to be the first prosecutor. In those days, when I started, there were different perceptions. Some people were afraid of a very tough and rough prosecutor doing political prosecutions. Other people were thinking, you can do nothing. You will do 9 years in the Hague doing nothing. Almost 8 years and 5 months later, we are here, and we did more than nothing. And in some way, what I'd like to present to you, and I'd like if you can put the PowerPoint to be clear because I'd like to present to you a question. Because I think in this new world, we need to redesign the legal framework. We are still working mostly on the national systems, which is important. But now we have a new reality. Most of the big crimes have international connections. There are many criminal organizations committed crimes crossing boundaries, and we are not well equipped to that. So we had to start to think in this area of international relations, legal issues, and organized crime. And I took the Libya referral of the Security Council Libya referral because I think it's a very significant point. I will make the point today. And then go to I have this. Yes. So the question is that, as you know, the UN Security Council referred the Libya case to the ICC. Is it showing a new trend, a new justice trend, and in which the Security Council will respect the law, and the law became a limit for the Security Council? Or is option one? Option two is it's not a new trend, it's a normal Security Council political decision. In this case, they decide to punish Gaddafi, and then they use the International Criminal Court as a tool to punish. But it's no new trend, it's a normal trend. And that is the question I like you deciding. So I will do two things. I would like you voting, because I like to have some idea what people at Harvard think on this issue. And before you vote, as any vote, we need some kind of debate to understand what we are deciding. So why is it important for me? Because I have a judicial mandate. So if the answer is one, it's no problem, because everyone is following the law, so the prosecutor has no problem. However, if the answer is two, it's different, because what are the implications for the prosecutor if the referral is based in a purely political interest? Should the prosecutor adjust to this political reality or not? Should keep the judicial mandate? So that is the question I'd like to present to you. Okay, so you have to think on that, because I like you voting on that. But before that, let me present basic information about the Rome Statute. It's a treaty voted by 120 countries, 120 states, on July 1998. Today, there are 119 countries who ratified the treaty. Okay? It's a treaty the goal is to end the impunity of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole: genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. And the goal is to contribute to the prevention of such crimes. It's important because the first time the international community defined there are crimes who are not just against national communities. These three crimes are against the international community. And so this is not just national crimes, they're global crimes. And they define a very unique model to face these crimes. First, the states who ratified the treaty adopted the duty to prosecute these crimes nationally. They established, in addition, a permanent international criminal court who will intervene if the state fails to intervene. So the system is a normal treaty, but the new difference is if the state fails, something happens. A court could independently decide to intervene. And the states are committed to guarantee respect for the court decision. So in this sense, it's not just a normal treaty, it's an integration of 119 states with one international criminal court to develop a global system of justice. We are living in a time in which we need global governance, but we don't have a global government. And this model is the most innovative design to face this problem. Okay? In addition, the treaty defines the element of the crimes, including genocide, basically the Genocide Convention, war crimes, Geneva, crimes against humanity were codified, adding some war crimes, some crimes against humanity, in particular in gender area, so it's a lot of development in the gender area, and the prosecutor has a special duty to prosecute the gender crimes, and also child soldiers is a new war crime. The statute defined that, and the statute defined exactly when the court could trigger its jurisdiction, and the statute defined also a criminal procedures to manage trials when the court intervenes. So that is the statute, okay? And let me show the map. This map shows what in blue are the states who are members of this treaty, okay? As you see, it's all Europe who suffered the crimes during the Second World War, all South America who suffered the crimes in the 70s and 80s, is also Mexico and Canada, is almost all the non-Arab Africa, with few exceptions, Zimbabwe and other exceptions, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Japan, South Korea, Jordan, Georgia. And now, after the Arab Spring, Tunisia coming. So I think this is a institutional development in the time of Facebook. Because Facebook is interesting. I was teaching at Harvard as a visiting professor when I was appointed in March 2003. Same days Facebook started in this place. And Facebook today has a community of 750 million people, one of the biggest countries in the world, if it's a country. But it's a community with no boundaries. It's a community different. It's a community based on interest. And that's the type of institution the Rome Treaty is. It's a community of states based in a specific interest to have a collective action to control these massive atrocities. And interestingly, Facebook was very fast. 750 million people is very fast. The court is bigger. We have 2.3 billion people in the court. So it's an idea moving very fast. The issue, how fast it's moving, is the Libya case. In the Libya case, suddenly, the wall is blue. Suddenly, the blue idea to have this commitment to stop massive atrocities became global. And is this a new trend, or is it just, no, it's just a coincidence? That is a question for me, okay? Let me present to you, I have a video clip in which we put together the basic news, then you can follow what happened in the Libya situation. Can we go to the...
He seized power in a military coup aged 27. Brash and confident, he began to impose a pan-Arab anti-imperialist philosophy that won him friends and enemies.
The people have gathered to express their revolution and say that they will not accept the camps and bases of colonialism on the Arab Libyan people's soil.
To the west, he was a bogeyman. He'd links to Yasser Arafat. There were claims he funded FARC rebels in Colombia. He armed the IRA in Northern Ireland. And there was the shooting dead of a policewoman outside the Libyan embassy in London during an anti-Gaddafi protest. Ronald Reagan called him a mad dog, and in 1986 sent his jets to bomb Tripoli and Benghazi. It increased the rift between the West and Libya, but worse was to come. The 1988 Lockerbie bombing of Pan Am 103 marked the lowest point in relations between Libya and the West. Some claim Libya played no part, but Gaddafi was held responsible and sanctions were imposed, which crippled the country's economy. The invasion of Iraq brought a rethink in Tripoli and led to Gaddafi's rehabilitation in the global community. Quietly, behind the scenes, he admitted his country had a nuclear weapons program. When he agreed to international inspections, he got a frosty handshake from Tony Blair in a tent in the desert. Gaddafi was no longer considered dangerous. He was eccentric and became a colourful turn at global gatherings. His oil meant he was accepted. He was regarded as a stabilising force, even if he did crush internal opposition and ran the country as the single power. In the end, he enjoyed a better relationship with the countries who once loathed him than the people he thought loved him.
Libya deserves a permanent seat in the Security Council because of its great service to international peace and security.
So he took the ceremonial gavel and will be the chair of the African Union for the next year.
distinguished members of the General Assembly of the United Nations, in the name of the African Union, I would like to welcome you and I do call that this gathering will be a historic one in the world and the history of the world. And in the name of the General Assembly that is presided by Libya now, in the name of the African Union,
of systematic murder by his regime of its own people. It happened in the city British forces are now trying to protect. We've evidence of Gaddafi's men firing at unarmed protesters.
Come into your city. We will ask you to show no mercy for the traitors. We are going to hunt them down wherever they are. We're going to track them down one by one.
I can tell you today there is a big massacre. While the people were marching to the cemetery, burying 30 martyrs on their way, they were hit with live ammunition in front of the army brigade in Birka. And 4 demonstrators were killed. There is a big massacre happening. We hear every few minutes that there are people killed.
Resolution 1970 includes an arms embargo, asset freeze, and travel bans for longtime Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi and his associates. It also refers Gaddafi to the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity.
For the first time ever, the Security Council has unanimously referred an egregious human rights situation to the International Criminal Court.
Today, 3rd of March 2011, the Office of the Prosecutor decided to open an investigation into alleged crimes against humanity committed in Libya since 15th of February. I am honored to report to this Council on the Office of the Prosecutor activities in furtherance of Resolution 1970. I would request the judges to issue arrest warrants against three individuals who appear to bear the greatest criminal responsibility for crimes against humanity committed in the territory of Libya since 15 February 2011. Based on the evidence collected, the prosecution has applied to Pre-Trial Chamber 1 for the issuance of arrest warrants against Muammar Mohammed Abu Minyar Gaddafi, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, and Abdullah al-Sanusi. The judges will decide.
The Chamber hereby issues 1. A warrant of arrest for Muammar Mohammed Abu Minyar Gaddafi. 2. A warrant of arrest for Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. 3. A warrant of arrest for Abdullah al-Sanusi.
The Office of the Prosecutor will conduct further investigations. First, allegation of rapes. Second, allegation of killings of sub-Saharan Africans considered mercenaries. And third, war crimes.
ونعلن للعالم مقتل القذافي we will announce to the world. We announce to the world that Muammar Gaddafi has been killed.
على يد الثوار.
On the hands of the revolutionaries.
وطويت إلى غير رجعة صفحة القذافي ونظامه واستبداده عن ليبيا وعن وجه الأرض.
And Gaddafi's tyranny and dictatorship has been finally ended, and this chapter has been closed for Libya and for all the world.
Gaddafi's son Saif al-Islam once vowed to fight and die on Libyan soil. Reuters has learned that he has proposed surrendering to the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where he is wanted for war crimes.
So, you have now a summary. Can you go back to the PowerPoint? So you have a summary of what happened, and this happened in this year, all of this, in February. And let me back to the question. What do you think? Is this a new trend that, you go to my question, is it the questions? Is it a new justice trend who's imposing to the Security Council, or is just business as usual? I like someone representing one of the two positions. Who is the volunteer? Who can present the idea that it's a new trend of justice? It's
not justice at all.
It's not justice at all.
No.
It's, what is?
Actually, the Nazis tried. We didn't just blow them up with spy drones. We showed them what a real principle of justice was. We said, you killed all these people, we're not just going to kill you. We're going to show you what it means.
Okay.
And Obama and Sarkozy just blew up Gaddafi's retreating caravan, which had white flags on it.
But now you're talking about the circumstance of his death. That is a different issue. No, but
Also, presidents need to actually get authority from the Congress before they start blowing up other countries. 80,000 Libyans now dead.
okay. So, but it's not at all connected with the International Criminal Court. We.
Well, this is just an organization that's supposed to implement imperial policy, which has no bearing on real justice.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay. So you will suggest the issue number 2. It's a tool of the political leaders implementing political decisions. Okay. Other position? Yes? Sorry? There were political reasons. But basically the trend is a similar trend. It's a political trend. It's not justice trend here. You like it, justice trend, but it's not. Okay. Yes. Okay, just to help those, yes. So it's a political tool to attack African leaders.
Exceptionally
But what defines a political condition? I think it would be political if I present a case with no evidence. Or if I say, look, I don't know if Gaddafi ordered the crime, but he's the leader, that's a political decision. But in my case, we present evidence showing that Gaddafi, Muammar, and Saif were planning how to quell the rebellion. They were planning, they had to shoot them to be sure they are not escalating, and they were thinking the army could reject the plan. That's why they decided to hire mercenaries. And Saif's personal mission was to hire the mercenaries and help them to come. So, and then we have the evidence they ordered the shooting. We have evidence that al-Sanusi was in the planning and was the one implementing the plans, shooting the civilians in Benghazi on the street. And we have more evidence showing they continued doing that. And in addition to that, they were persecuting those considered dissidents, alleged dissidents, and abducting them and torturing them. So we have evidence of all of that. So that for me is a judicial activity. It's not political activity. The fact that Mr. Gaddafi or Saif were political actors is not transforming the case in political trial. They are political actors. And in fact, the role of the court is to put limits to the political actors. You cannot commit atrocities to gain power or retain power. That's the message. So we are trying to put the legal limits to the political actors who are committing crimes. The question I am presenting to you is different. Is, okay, Security Council is in charge of peace and security in the world. And they have a political mandate that they are implementing politically normally. And that creates the perception of double standards. Many people think it's wrong. But in any case, that's why I'm asking you. The fact that they react so fast is showing a justice trend who is coming, or it's just the normal issue? To help you, because I was imagining the justice trend will be not so clear for you, so I prepared a little, this one. Okay, why you can see a justice trend? You can see even before I took office, the Security Council passed a resolution preventing the court to intervene or to investigate individuals who belong to non-state parties involved in the peacekeeper operation. And this was a resolution promoted by US in the Bush administration. And this resolution was confirmed next year, the following year, 2003, and was not confirmed in 2004. When they went to discuss in 2004, there were no more majority for this resolution. When the court started operation, this resolution stopped. Then, 2005, the UN Commission of Inquiry presented a report on Darfur, and they recommend to refer the case to the International Criminal Court. And suddenly, the states start to debate that. For 3 months, they were discussing that. And finally, 11 votes in favor, 4 abstentions, no veto. The case was referred. 2011, as you saw, 9 days after the beginning of the killings, Security Council decided to do justice in Libya. And in this case, there were no debate about who will do justice. It was the International Criminal Court. And this case were 15 votes, unanimity, including China, Russia, South Africa, India, Lebanon, okay? So, and that is the argument that, okay, here is a trend, it's changing. The Security Council is more and more understanding the need to do justice, and then we have to understand and review how we understand the global political issues, okay? This is the argument in favor of the idea of justice trend. I don't see a lot of enthusiasm for it, but it's presented. Yes? Some of them. I fully agree with you. In fact, it's the first time members of the Arab League request one of the leaders to resign. Never happened before. And they are reacting because of the crimes. Yes, I agree with you. This could be part of this new trend. Yes? You talk.
If you have no political motivations, the ICC, then why haven't you put up a referral to a subpoena for Barack Obama for killing 3 American citizens by predator drones?
But do you hear any Security Council referral of the Obama situation? No. Look, I will explain to you that. Look. Sorry? No, but you have a Security Council resolution in the Libya case. I had 2 chances to intervene. In the blue countries, and try to find US or Pakistan in the blue countries, or Zimbabwe, or Iraq. Exactly. That's why the video I show you with the votes. Yes. Yes. No, the legal issue is the following. I can have to. Can you listen to me? Sorry. No. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. No, I like to focus. Okay. I prefer to. I was thinking it would be more organized, this debate. I like to go back because I really believe. Okay, I know you say you talked 3 times, and it's clear that you believe option number 2. I try, you're not listening. I tell you, because I have no jurisdiction. You understand what is jurisdiction? Criminal jurisdiction is something that the Security Council can provide to me in the white countries. They did not, so I cannot do it. In the Libya case, they did that. You saw in the video. So that's why I cannot intervene in Libya. No, it's okay. Go. Yes.
It's an attempt to end the sanctuary or that heads of state have in persecuting their own people, but that the Security Council, the entity that refers cases to the International Criminal Court, 5 of whom are permanent members, 3 of them are not signatories to the Rome Treaty. So it's like the police force that's rounding up these people and referring them to the court is not subject to the jurisdiction of the court itself. So that's where the flaw is that a lot of people see. The members, the United States, Russia, China, are not subject to the Rome Treaty. They're not members of, they're not signatories to the Rome Treaty, but they vote to refer other members to the court.
Yes,
okay.
And you see
So
that
that's
as a political, yes, it's a problem because they are not subject themselves to the law, but they subject others to the law. And in this sense, you don't see a justice trend, you see a political trend.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Could you just come and stand at the mics, please, so everybody can hear?
Can you go to the mic?
I'm very optimistic about the Libya case because it came to the criminal court in such a short time. Now in this age where information is going fast and it's shared by the whole world get information so fast, and there is a sense of justice. Before the internet age, we never got an opportunity to know about what is happening around. Now we know what is happening around, and we want to do something and we don't know because there are sovereignty issues and stuff. But now, first of all, the existence of International Criminal Court itself is such an optimistic trend in today's world. And on top of it, the Libya case came to the criminal court in such a short time. I think it's highly optimistic. The new sense of justice that's happening in the minds of people around the world is kind of getting translated into action. I mean, there is a system here. It might not be perfect. It will have its flaws. But the thing is, we have a system, and it will, all of us can kind of take it into the next level. So I definitely go for the first one. I think we are not ready to tolerate any atrocity.
Okay, but what you are saying is internet is creating a new scenarios where the citizens are understanding what's happening, and this will put pressures on the countries who maybe they are not ready to sign the treaty, but they are ready to send the case of Libya. And this is showing there is a justice trend pushed by the internet system who is giving more information to you, the citizens. But if you like to stop crimes, you need institution. It's not enough to talk, oh, it's bad. Yes, you need institution reacting. And now, because the ICC exists, maybe the combination of the existence of the ICC and the citizens is pushing the Security Council to follow this justice trend, maybe. Yeah.
So my question is, do you intend to hold Israeli officials accountable for the actions that they committed in December of 2008 and January 2009 against the Gaza Strip?
Okay, we'll talk after, okay? Because it's a completely different topic. Let me finish. I'd like to have one clarity on this issue I'm presenting, and I think it's an academic community, probably we can focus on the questions and answer the question, and then we can follow a different issue, okay? Let me focus on this. I hope the Kennedy School people can focus in one question, discuss, debate, and find a conclusion, no? That is what we are trying to do here. So, are you leaving or are you talking?
So you mentioned that we need a governance system for the whole world, and we don't have one.
No, I say we need global governance.
Right.
But we will not have a global government.
Right.
So what I'm saying is this ICC is a model to have common rules with a court enforcing it who can allow states independent to work together. That is it's a new concept that I love is the Kennedy School start to think on that because it's a new concept. We had nothing like this before. And then in some way, it's something making the world less primitive.
Right.
In a primitive society, if you live in Boston and you imagine Boston with no police, your neighbors steal your bicycle, what do? You have to go and steal their bicycle. So with police, you can go to the police and my neighbor to steal my bicycle. So the institution solve your problem. And we have no institution before, and now we have an institution. Okay? So it's like in September 11, you have no institution to go to do justice against bin Laden. Now, you can choose a different path in a new situation. You can request a court intervention to investigate bin Laden and prosecute him. So it's a new institution. How is affecting this new institution, who is a fact, the Security Council, who is a political body? That's the question for me. I'd like to have clarification. I hope you can give me clarification.
I was going to agree with you on this point.
No, wait.
So I'm voting for one, and the reason is as you say, that without these structures, these law structures, things are way too expensive and primitive, and we do have apparently an innate revulsion to primitivism, and I believe, and we have some sense that we want to move forward and become better organized, and we have these practical reasons as well, because allowing people like Gaddafi to run amok is very dangerous.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting to see Gaddafi was so powerful. No? Gaddafi was the Security Council, African Union, General Assembly President, one of the richest men in the world, and this guy suddenly was put on justice. Yeah, something happening here.
Interrupt
Yes.
for a second and just ask people, if you wouldn't mind, since we are in Q&A mode, just to identify yourselves, please, and just to make one question, and as you know, question...
Or comment, yeah. Go back and comment, in fact.
Yeah, okay, well, but just keep it brief, because there are a lot of people who want to talk. So just identify yourself and keep your comment brief. Thank you.
Law school. I want to offer an argument for interpretation number one, which is that Gaddafi is the second sitting head of state who's been indicted. And so when we think of political motivations, we think of, regional affiliations, et cetera, but I think something that's ignored or mitigated or avoided in number two is the idea that these states that would vote for investigation of Gaddafi or of the situation, but with the potential of having it arise that it's Gaddafi, especially given the precedent in Darfur, are themselves heads of state. So it's difficult to think of heads of state making a political decision that may come back to bite them, but it's more easy to conceive of when it's a justice-based decision.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, okay.
I'm sorry.
Go.
Sir, I'm Ali. I'm from Iran. Welcome. So as far as I used to follow ICC history, I know that each case brings a new foundation for justice and for law. Do you see this case as that you prosecuted a head of a state about his own country in a state that hasn't signed this ICC Status Roma before? Do you see this as a foundation for the further cases like in Yemen, maybe, I don't know, Yemen, Israel, or other places?
No, I have no jurisdiction on these countries that you mentioned, so depend on the Security Council. It's the Security Council decision to give jurisdiction to the court in one of the 94 states who are still not members of the Rome Treaty. So I have automatic jurisdiction in 119 states, and I have eventual jurisdiction if the Security Council, using its powers in charge of peace and security, decided to do justice. As the same way in the past, Security Council created a tribunal. Yugoslavia and Rwanda were created by the same authority. Now what they are doing is providing referral to the ICC. So this way became an evolution because we have a permanent court now. The Security Council can refer. How this interact is for me an issue I like to discuss. I like to understand how this world is managed. Is Security Council making more legal decisions, making more clear this line that states, people in power cannot commit atrocities to remain in power? Or is political, it's just everything is random and political? That's the question I'm trying to understand. In particular, because the second aspect, if this is totally political, what I should do when I receive a political decision? No.
Simar Singh, and I'm here at the Kennedy School. To go back to your question, I wish it was number one, but I see a trend where I think it is actually the second option, and I'd use the case of child soldiers. So there is a clear precedent at the ICC that the first case was held against the recruitment and use of child soldiers, but there hasn't been a single referral from the Security Council, despite having repeated evidence from countries such as Burma, Myanmar, Colombia, etc. So I think in that case it is a political decision, and the Security Council is sort of choosing which cases they want to push forward and refer and which ones they don't.
So the Security Council still working the same way. They choose when, and if, in fact, you can say, it's Security Council attribution, decide when they believe justice will help and when not. But in any case, showing it's still not a justice trend, it's still a political trend. That's the point.
Unfortunately. So.
Okay. Thank you for your contribution.
My name is Marissa. I have a question using this dichotomy you put up here between new and normal, to talk about the new, or the term that's gained increasing significance, which is the responsibility to protect, as something that's been newly implemented and newly important. And I guess I would wonder, given the historical, politically problematic nature of humanitarian intervention and looking at human rights, the responsibility to protect is a new term, a new doctrine with force, but then your opinion on how different that really is from the politically problematic way in which humanitarian intervention has always been looked at. This is getting attention as something new and exciting, and I guess I'm wondering your opinion on how new and different it is, or if it's just a new term.
Okay, but that was the question I'm doing to you. Exactly.
No, not me.
I am just a prosecutor. You are the theory. You are the guy who has studied theory. You are the guy to describe the world. So I am hoping after my meeting I'll have clarity where is the world. As you say, you can say Libya referral is aligning with responsibility to protect, which is a new trend, and Libya referral, in fact, is showing the responsibility to protect is flying, is moving ahead. So you can say that if you like. I don't know. I'm asking you. Okay, I think it's before.
I think so. Zach Rosenfeld. I'm MPP1 at the Harvard Kennedy School. My question just had to do with, specifically with the U.S. And its relationship with the ICC. You know, we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years a really stunning turnabout with the U.S. They started totally against ICC, wouldn't work with them at all. Darfur, they were willing to abstain from the Security Council and allow them to recommend Darfur to the ICC. And in this last case with Libya, they actually voted with Security Council unanimously with China, as you mentioned. So I'm wondering, like, what do you think is motivating this change? I mean, going back to your dichotomy, but also, like, what pressures do you think are coming to bear on countries like the United States and China, who've been traditionally been sort of enemies of the ICC?
No, the point you're making is exactly the point I am presenting as a maybe justify a new trend, because as you say, US adjusted, China adjusted, Russia adjusted, so they are moving to a different position. So maybe now we are living in a different world in which Security Council is taking in consideration and weighing different crimes and legal limits. And that is, for me, the question to analyze. The reasons is difficult for me. I hope you can do the research, not me. I'm just blind prosecutor.
Was before me.
I'm sorry, okay.
My name is Christian Schiller, and I'm with the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy.
Great.
And I would actually say it's something in between, you know.
Okay.
When we say maybe yes, there's a new justice trend, but it's not operating in a political vacuum. When the Security Council is referring a situation to you, I guess they're not expecting to have a couple of acquittals coming out of this case. So I do see a clear political agenda. At the same time, I guess according to the statute, you would have the power to say, you know, there's no reasonable basis to proceed. You know, your Security Council, you refer jurisdiction to me, but I can just do not see any responsibility. And also on top of that, what we've seen in the documentary too, I do believe that even within the Rome Statute, there's plenty of room for you that you have to think about what are the political implications of my strictly judicial activity. So, I mean, I do give it, or I do see that, you know, while you're doing your work according to the Rome Statute, of course, you know, sort of what is at the end of the project. In the end, you have a regime change. So even though you say, I'm sticking closely to the letter of the Rome Statute, my actions, my judicial actions have a political impact that I must might consider. And maybe even the Rome Statute gives me some kind of leeway to interpret that. Is it in the interest of justice? Is it a grave enough crime? Who do I target with my prosecution? So I do say yes. Strictly speaking, first of all, it's a judicial trend, but it is not operating in a political vacuum, and it always has a political implication, whatever you do. Either you turn down a case or you prosecute.
Okay. But the Security Council referred the case to me. They don't know if I will prosecute Gaddafi or a captain. They have no idea. So maybe they like the idea to punish Gaddafi, but they don't know. And the political issue is normally in the past, they were just ignoring the crimes. And now, suddenly, they say someone has to review the crimes. In this sense, could be a new trend.
Thank you. My name is Julie, and I'm from the law school. I also find it hard to make a clear choice between the two, although if I had to make this choice, I'd opt for answer number one. But I'm wondering if these two options could be, to some extent, not so contradictory. I mean, what you showed in the Security Council's decision show that it's from this new political will that we can get this new justice trend. Like be strengthened and make it possible for these new examinations and prosecutions from your office. And so I believe that it might become more and more normal, actually, that these crimes are not accepted by the international community and the political will that's behind. So we might have a new political will, at least for these new issues that we're facing. We've faced with Libya, but this might actually go further. And I know that you're very optimistic, and it happens that I'm too when it comes to international justice. So this brings me to a question to you, sir. Do you think that this is something that can go back? Can the U.S. say no to the next Libya case that happens, or will they feel bound by that and by, the international, sort of consensus that we've had?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Probably you can take in consideration that some people say Syria is similar to Libya, and no one is referring the Syria case. So maybe the precedent is not such a big precedent. But also people can say, look, but it's wrong, because in the Syria situation, there was a presidential statement condemning the crimes. What the opposition, and that's why there's no agreement to do something else, because the opposition to this resolution, because as you know, was a veto in the Syria situation, because Russia, China, India, South Africa are unhappy with the NATO military intervention in Libya. So the real dissidence in Libya is about the military intervention. They were thinking the NATO operation went beyond the limits, and that was the blocking part. So it's difficult to say exactly what is the difference between Syria and Libya, but you can debate. I'd like to finish can you finish with the person who are in the micro, and then I need a vote, because I'd like to make a second little point and finish.
I have a question. Some Libyan officials, they said they want to try the former regime's officials in Libya, and based on the domestic, Libyan's law. So what is the ICC positions? Do you think they have this capacity? And are you going to help them? You're going to provide them with the legal and technical assistance?
It's a slightly different.
And why, I'm sorry, just if I may. And why the International Committee asked the NTC, the Libyan National Transitional Council, to investigate the death of Gaddafi, which is its might war crimes committed here, because Gaddafi might be executed without trial.
Yeah.
No one asked them to investigate, the crimes that committed by Gaddafi. So, and the last things, do you think the ICC can bring justice better than they do, or better than, the local capacity? And, given the experience with international courts like the ITCY or ITCR or Hariri Tribunal, which takes a long time, and many people, they get frustrated with this very long and, in fact, too long a process.
Okay, but in this case, we have a warrant after 2 months and a half. So we start in March, we make a request in May, in June we have the arrest warrant issue. So in 2 months and a half we have an arrest warrant, so we're not slow. Can Libya do it? Depends. Right now they have no case. If they do a case, they have to challenge the admissibility of the case before the ICC. They are promising to investigate Gaddafi conditions of the Gaddafi death. That's what they're promising, and we follow that. Yes, thank you.
Jed Schwartz, Somerville. Suppose that the Security Council wanted to investigate a crime with which a national who belonged from one of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council was associated, like the United States, for example, or Britain. Would it be advisable for the host of that national to recuse themselves from the Security Council vote authorizing the investigation?
Yeah, if they have veto power, they can veto the decision, that's it. Yeah. If they have veto power, they can veto the eventual decision, and that's it. So the country will decide. It's not my role.
The country would decide, but it might be in the interest of legitimating the country's position in the world to recuse themselves, yes? I mean, it might be.
Yes, it's their decision. So you have to convince people how to vote. Are you voting for 1 or 2?
I'm looking at it, if you're looking at Libya alone, the case of Libya, I'm not sure we have enough evidence of the case to justify the argument for a new justice trend. A trend would need more than one case, especially being Libya, that is a sensitive case and would have a lot of international attention. So I think we would need to have more to justify that Libya is a new justice trend. Maybe if you're looking at it with the idea that there's a referral in Darfur and this piece, then maybe we might make an argument that there's a new justice trend. But if you're only looking at Libya, I find that we do not have enough on the table as it is, even though we will say that China, Russia, US, the countries that are not parties to the Rome Statute voted for it. I still don't think we have enough to justify
so you vote
an
for
argument.
2. You vote number 2.
I'll go with what Christian said. It's somewhere in between.
Here,
If I was forced to eat, I would vote for 2. If I had to choose one,
so
I'd go for 2.
Yes, okay, but we have to, because I like to vote. Go. You like to talk, and then we will prepare for vote.
Sir, I'd like to go before you.
Yeah.
So when I was pondering this question, my name is Adam, I'm a student here at the Kennedy School. I was trying to think of a case which you prosecuted, which the target wasn't an incredibly political figure. And I'm thinking of Joseph Kony and the LRA. So it's not Gaddafi, he's not a member of the international community, he's isolated from the political community within his country. So when I think about it that way, I think about it towards a trend, that the decision to target Joseph Kony might have not been a very political decision. But then I think of the implications, what has that done to a peace process, and what are the political consequences of a justice trend, and whether that's been an impact on him coming out of the bush or even undoing that. And also Museveni, the person, the Rome Statute Conference was in Kampala, I believe. He's saying that we might not bring Kony to the ICC even though there is an ICC warrant for him. So I see it as a trend towards a person who is not a member of the political community, but has committed some serious violations. So, in between, I guess.
So I serious doubts on the justice trend because even other cases. Okay, you?
Christopher from the Fletcher School and originally from Kenya. It's neither.
Okay.
Justice does not begin with the ICC. I mean, if we answer one, it means that Nuremberg, ICTY, ICTR, and we're talking about retributive justice. If it's restorative justice, we're talking about numerous truth commissions. So justice did not begin, and this is not a new trend. This is a trend that has been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you vote for number one. The trend is bigger. But it's a justice trend. It's not new. It's a not justice. It's a justice trend.
It's not new justice, but it's a justice. There's been a justice.
A justice trend from Nuremberg. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay. After this debate, I'd like to have a vote, and then I'd like to have some remark before we finish. So, can you raise the hands? Those who vote for number one, it's a justice trend. Okay. It's a justice trend the Security Council will now respect. Wow. Can you help me from this half? I got this half, yes. Wait. This is 11. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see up there yet.
No, you're there.
No, but I'm not there.
11, 14. How many you have? 14.
Can we take the vote from between 1 and 2?
No. This is null. It's a complete null vote. No. Okay. No, it's plus. So, okay. Now, those who vote for the second option is a normal political decision. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. The result is 33?
Is this so, 2?
2. 33 against 49. No, because it's this. 33 for number one is a justice trend.
Oh, yeah.
And 49 is a normal political business, okay? So basically, the Kennedy expression in this not very scientific sample is that there is a normal business. So if this is true, and this is in fact for me the most important question, what is the implication for me as a prosecutor? Is it just a political referral? So the question is, should I adjust to the political conditions, including the negotiation area, asking them what to do, or should I just do my normal judicial activity? I'd like to present you William Burke-White, who is a professor in Pennsylvania. It's an ongoing forum on discussing this issue now in the UCLA forum, and you can read what he said. No, it's basically he's expressing the idea: the prosecutor just pretending to be judiciary is wrong. It's losing opportunities. So this is his position. No, and this is particularly true if you have Security Council resolution based on political decision. And my idea was, even if the Security Council is a political decision, even in that, first, my mandate is the same. My mandate is judicial. And then, in particular, it's a political decision. Security Council has the monopoly of political decisions. They have to make the political decision. They can stop my investigation if they believe I interfere with justice. But I have to remain judicial. I have to remain doing just investigation, evidence, law cases. That's my job. And that will help Security Council to make political decisions. Because the day they want to do justice, they know they will do justice because they will refer the case to us and we'll just do justice, no political decisions. And that's for me, that's why the debate on the first debate is important to clarify, maybe you're right, maybe still, basic Security Council is still a political body making political decisions. But when they refer the case to ICC, ICC has to intervene judicially. And that for me is the trend we have to confirm. Whatever is the origin of the decision, whatever the reason they decide to refer the case, the answer of the ICC should be judicial, not based in political consideration. And that's it for me, a clear position. And therefore, the problem is, and that's why I was trying to make this point to the Kennedy School, because I think it's the most important issue, it's not the prosecutor who should adjust to the peace effort or the political negotiations. The other actors should adjust and learn how the judicial process will work and how they can negotiate. We need a negotiator. But the negotiation when Gaddafi is indicted is okay. Maybe you can go to Zimbabwe or Belarus and escape justice, but you cannot remain in power. Because the prosecutor unveiled the fact that they were using massive killings to stay in power, to remain in power. So if you are really protecting civilians, a negotiation should not include keeping Gaddafi or Saif or Sanusi in power. And that is the type of information the prosecutor unveiled. And the judicial work has to give this to the political leaders, and political leaders taking this in consideration. Or you can go further. There was no mandate in NATO to provide arrest operation. And maybe it was better because the operation was so, there's so many discussions. But maybe the best solution would be not to send, if a war, send command to arrest individuals at the top of the court. Or I think also, if Security Council understand the meaning of justice, you can take this Libya case and discuss in other conflicts in countries who are not members of the ICC. You can discuss with them what conditions are and what conditions to be implemented in order not to be referred to ICC. So Security Council can do a better use of the existence of ICC to manage peace and security in the world. And no one is thinking on that. People are focusing eventually on the prosecutor himself, and no one is thinking in the other actors. And that is for me a problem. And that's why I was trying to challenge you with these ideas to see if you can start to develop theories and framework to those who are running mediations, to those who are running political decisions, in particular to manage conflict, to start to understand better how the law could be a new way to protect people and to make peace and security. And that is my hope, and I hope the Kennedy School could provide some ideas because the world really needs. And peace is not a luxury, peace is a need. So we really need ideas from the Kennedy School to clarify how Security Council should work. Thank you very much. You do some final comments? Sure.